I'm Joan Jennings, Chair of the Public Art Committee, calling the meeting to order at 2 p.m. Roll call of members, Bill Meals.
Here.
Lucian Robinson.
Here.
Jules Eichmeyer.
Here.
Theodore Iannano.
Here.
Trish Gregory.
Here.
Sandra Hollibar.
Nope.
Nope, okay, Sandra's absent. Acknowledgement of guests. We have Costa Vaticiotis. Okay, and we also have city representatives Diane Wood, Chief Robert Cochin, and Marissa Schumacher. Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the December 10th, 2019 meeting?
I make a
Lucianne,
second.
second Trish. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passed. Old business, the Tapestry Project update feasibility. Trish, do you have any follow-up with David Collins?
I sent him an email with all the information and a copy of the form that he has to send back. That's been several weeks, not a word back, and so we can drop him as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, so I guess we seem to be sensing that one of the big roadblocks to this is the liability insurance.
It's the insurance is the big thing.
Okay.
Right.
So we'll make a note that that item will be removed from the next agenda.
Okay.
Okay, Artist Alley, Jules and Trish.
The template of the mural spaces, I have a photograph of each mural space. There's a possibility of 2 on the side of Tarpon Tavern. That's a big, long one.
Mm-hmm.
I still have not heard back from the woman that she has 2 sections, and there's a gate that goes through to a parking lot in between. And I've left my card, I've called, I've talked to her secretary, and she has not returned it, and her secretary kept telling me how gung-ho she was for Tarpon Springs. It's that little construction company house that sits next to the public parking, and I will give it another shot, hopefully soon.
Okay.
Jules, what about writing her a letter instead of email, or instead of trying to go through someone else, write her a direct letter?
Okay, that's a good idea, thank you.
All right, I guess we can't assume that everybody is on
Exactly,
the internet.
exactly.
Good idea,
Well, she
Trish.
is, but
Yeah.
yeah, because
Well, that, or they're getting the word, or sometimes they just forget.
Yeah.
Get busy and forget, so.
And I'm told she's hardly ever in the office, and the office is only open on Thursdays.
Yeah.
And so I did catch the secretary, and I left my card with a note, and so we'll see what,
Yeah.
I'll go back again. The call to artist form revision, the biggest problem with that one is, of course, the insurance. And the call to artists it isn't conducive to the Artist Alley, because we're trying to encourage up and coming artists and, artists in town and around. And most of them, I mean, most artists have a portfolio, right? But the application asks for samples of work that's already in place somewhere. And that really doesn't necessarily, I mean, it would apply to both Sarah Hooper and Jenny Pearl and Derek Donnelly, except right now he took on a big commission to do a super mural on one of the stadiums. One of the stadiums. Yeah, he already had one inside.
Wow.
And that's going to be his big one. Yeah. He had, look on his website, because he's got, he's so excited. But most
Yeah,
of
I have
them,
time,
you can point to a building and they can give you a copy of that. But a lot of them that don't have that, I refer to that as being published. Once you've done something on a building with the owner's permission and you've been paid for it or had been sponsored for it, then that's a good solid part of your resume. But a portfolio is a portfolio. It shows what you can do, but it doesn't show where you've done it. And so we really need to take a look at the revision. I'd like to do that next month if we could, and take a good close look at it, other than the insurance, because that isn't, Yeah,
Could we do a call that's specific for this area?
right. And can we make it
diff-
different? This is my question. Can we abridge it for like Artist Alley? Because that's a specific call with specific, it's not,
We could create any, form for any specific project that you want. I think that was the intention of that, one that is on the website now, was intended for general inquiries, like if an artist
Right.
says,
Right.
well, gee, I'd like to do some art in Tarpon Springs, that gives them, this is what we need in order for you to do that, to submit, a proposal. So I believe that once you come up with any other type of project that you want to do, and it involves maybe younger artists and everything, then perhaps we create a form with those requirements, and that would be part of the call.
okay.
You
Can
know,
it
as
be
well.
listed? Okay, so we would list, okay, so they would not go, where would they get the?
We could do a specific landing page for that project.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
That's a
what
good
I was
idea.
wondering. Yes, it
Right.
is. Very good.
Okay, and we had a workshop here on Friday, January 10th, and Jules distributed some, shall we call them homework assignments to the members, to survey local municipalities regarding their policies on liability insurance and other legal and liability considerations. And I think if, this will involve phone calling and/or checking websites, but if we could somehow get all the results together and discuss them at the February meeting, we can add that to the agenda. Okay. Art recycling containers, Bill.
I have Kyle's contact information, and I will have something of significance by next meeting. Okay?
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, the illuminated art boxes, Diane, I know between the holidays and your work trip, did you have a chance to,
No, I thought we were going to leave that up for the committee to choose the location, because until the committee chooses the location for it, I can't get that approved.
so we need the location before we can order the prototype,
Right.
but we need the prototype to see where it would fit. It's one of those chicken and egg situations.
Well, if it's 20 by 30 inches, we know the size of it. So I think you need to decide where you want to test the first prototype, whether it wants to be, up on a pole of some sort, or
Right.
whether
Yeah.
it needs to be, something that's in the ground, like a sign. And then decide where you want to test the first one, and where it makes the most sense in your mind, and then, we can
Right.
go from there.
Well, I thought the original concept was to attach them to the existing light poles, like on the sidewalk side. So they wouldn't be a problem for like passing trucks and, that sort of thing.
I think we still need a location, though. Is it
Okay.
downtown? Is it Sponge Docks? Is it?
Right.
you know?
Well, how about one of the light poles on the sponge docks, maybe near the sponge diver statue?
Oh. You make a motion?
Yeah, do we need a motion on that, or just,
don't
I
know.
don't think so.
If there is one, I second.
I'll find out if they're city or, who they belong to.
Right, right. So, yeah, we'd have to obviously do something with the city.
Okay, ask. Do you want to, okay, so something within the sponge, where the sponge diver is
Right.
located, right there on the, okay.
I figured that would be a good place to start,
Just for one.
yeah.
I'll check with Tom Function on that.
Okay, great, thanks, Diane. Okay. All right, we had the workshop for the updated general guidelines and master plan, as I said, on January 10th. I did a draft of our updated suggestions, which I emailed to you this morning. I realized that it wasn't enough lead time to be presented at the meeting, but I don't know whether it's acceptable to email it out to the members of the committee just for review purposes as a draft.
I believe so, but I'll check with Irene.
Okay, and if that is permissible, then we'll just go ahead and do that. Okay. Carl Cowden Downtown Mural Project, again, similar to what Trish faced with David Collins, there hasn't been any response from him in terms of completing the application or submitting an idea for an original art project. So I'm going to suggest that he be removed from the agenda going forward.
I make a motion that we remove him from the agenda.
Okay, second, thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. New business. Okay, I'm going to add some items to the agenda for new business. This was discussed at the workshop. Coming before the Board of Commissioners tonight, there is Planning and Zoning Department Ordinance 2019-26, which is an amendment to the wording concerning the Public Art Fund and developers. I just wanted to make everybody aware of it. It is available on the city's website. And I think, we are going to have to look again at our own draft ordinance to make sure that the wording is, compatible, thank you, Diane, with the building department's ordinance. So, does anybody have any questions or comments about that? It was basically just wording to ensure that the program is, has some follow-through and some teeth, which it needed.
Excuse me, Joan, would you give me the number again?
Certainly, it's 2019-26.
26, okay, thank you.
Okay, and as I said, it's coming before the board tonight.
Okay.
Okay. All right, one of the other things that came up was I asked, at the workshop, I also asked Marissa to give us a copy of the PAC budget. And I don't know whether, I think you all got copies. And I guess I have some questions about it because the last figure that we had in the spring, we had a balance of $294,000 and change.
Yeah, quite a difference.
The balance of the public art fund as a whole is closer to 257,000.
Okay.
The amount that's been approved by the BOC for our use during fiscal year 2020 is 141, of which we've used 33,000 about. So we have that amount left that's on your sheet, 107,000.
Okay.
If we plan projects that need to go over and above that, we can go to the BOC for an amendment to the budget if we need that, but that's something that we should discuss if it comes to that.
Okay. But the money's still in there.
Yes.
Okay, felt like home for a minute. Okay, that's very good to know. Okay, does anybody have any questions about the budget? Basically, as you can see, the major expenditure was the payment to Elizabeth Indianos for the approved project on the historic mural at the Cultural Arts Center. Diane, what's the progress on the renovations there? We're still looking at, like February, March for,
Yes, I believe, Bob Robertson told me that the building was gonna be turned back over like March 1st.
okay,
They're just kind of finishing up some things, and then, I believe, the Board of Commissioners did approve, some interior things that are, is different from the original contract to be done inside the Cultural Center, which really needs it.
Right.
So, that may extend it, a little bit. They're gonna be, doing some things on the outside in addition, but I believe that, Elizabeth will be able to get in to do at least her, her evening work as of probably the end of February, mid
Okay.
to end of February.
okay, but that is moving forward. And then I guess when all of the other repairs are finished, we will be installing the Glenna Goodacre Storytime sculpture
yes.
outside, so,
Excited about that.
yes. And, let's see, and I guess the other major expenditures we had were the plaques for the bike racks and for the naiads, and for cleaning the mermaid.
Yes.
So that's basically all we've spent money on this year. Okay,
I have a question,
certainly.
Madam Chairman.
Yes.
Does this proposed budget still stand, or has it, the one that we have in our one-year
It's,
plan tab?
well, the thing is, the historic mural, that's
That's
in the works.
Elizabeth,
Right.
right?
The large murals, they're still under consideration, but nobody's, done anything about them. Outreach and education,
That's-
artist plaques are done, maintenance is done. Calls to artists, we haven't had any reason to issue any calls on cafe. And,
Cafe cost us, wasn't it? Didn't it cost us?
yeah, but going
to-
forward, this
Oh,
is the projected
okay.
budget, yeah. So we, if we do, some of the things I'm about to mention, that we
So-
will have to.
Where in this list does the Artist Alley fit?
That would be kind of under the murals, but
Large,
more
okay.
under, smaller diverse murals. It's still a mural project.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
you're welcome. Okay, this is a new item, and there has been, I've been approached to bring to the committee a discussion to create public art sculptures at the Public Safety Facility on Huey in honor of first responders, that's police and fire rescue, with a acknowledgement too of fallen officer Charlie Kondek. And I think what we'll try to do, and I know Lucy just gave us a draft of some ideas for creating juries. So are you still sure you don't want to head the committee for this project?
I don't think we've approved it yet, have we?
No, but that's what part of the approval process is, to create a committee. But we need someone to spearhead it.
I think it's really outside my, my interest, and I would kind of like to see us put a master plan together before we,
We have one.
Yeah, we have,
adopt
that's
any
what
new
we,
projects,
Yeah, we have one.
irrespective of, I think this would be very popular with the community. I went down to that site, and
Yeah,
the
there
most
is a-
powerful thing to me is that hunk of metal from Ground Zero.
yeah, I
I
did
mean,
take
that
some
in and of
pictures of it.
itself is very moving. But, I'd rather see us develop a master plan with specified areas and specified characteristics. That's just where I am. I'm kind of a law and order, go back to the books, process person. So,
Right, well,
that would be my interest.
right, well, the thing is, part of that would be the creation of juries. That's why I thought that you might be interested in creating a committee/jury for this particular project. If you want to give it some thought, but,
Sure,
Okay.
I'm happy to consider it.
okay. And does anybody else have any thoughts on the project?
No, I think it's a good idea. I think it would be, quite a worthy project.
Okay, and I also think that it's the type of project, I think, that would elicit a lot of
About having
donations and financial support from corporations and the public as well. So I think we
Right.
can, not look at it as a tremendous burden on the Public Art Fund.
Because we know what good pieces of art cost, good sculptures, and looking at our budget, we can't afford it. Yeah, so if we could form, like if you take the committee for this, you could bring in fundraising opportunities as well to collect so that the community is also involved in this and has a vested interest in these two pieces.
And we would lend support too, obviously, whoever you need.
Right, right,
Thank you.
okay.
I did have one thing about the jury. Some projects call for juries, like that one that I can see. Something like the Artist Alley, some of our smaller projects like that, if we have to form a jury, every time we do it, it's gonna take us twice as long to do it. I have talked with every one of the store owners that up and down there, except that one woman. And each one of them has said, yes, I would love to have a piece of art on the back of my building. I think it would be a beautiful thing, but I want to have some input into what goes there, and so in the Artist Alley, a jury is not, it's not that it's just not called for, it's not appropriate at that point.
Sure,
for
that's
that.
fine.
Yeah, but I can see a jury,
For
being brought
larger-
in
for
and
larger
formed
works, yeah.
for this, because you could get other people on it, you know?
Well, I guess I suggested creating a committee. I don't know what the
Yeah.
discernment would be between having a committee and a jury, whether, it would, I mean, is it just semantics or?
Are you talking about the Artist Alley specifically, or
No,
just
the
general?
public safety facility
Oh, the
project.
public, okay, we're back on that.
Because that would
Okay.
that would be a major project
Okay.
with,
Right.
yeah, with, and usually what happens is when we do, it would involve a call to artists after we get the feedback from the community as to exactly what they want. So this is gonna be a complex, project. And, so we'd have to do a consensus of opinion among the various agencies and the public, a solicitation of, donations and financial support, a call to artists, once we have an idea about what we're actually looking for. So, it's not gonna happen by the 4th of July, but, I guess if we do a call to artists and get a significant number of submissions, then it would either have to go back to the committee, or the committee would become the jury.
So the first step then would be to have a chairman and then to form a committee? Is that the first thing on the agenda
yeah.
for this process? Okay, to move it forward?
Why is the first step not adopting it as part of the master plan?
I think it has been adopted,
No.
wasn't it?
I
Didn't we
think it's
vote on
in the
that?
draft of the master plan we worked
Well,
on.
not on the master, because it just came up at the workshop, so
Yeah.
Right.
it's a new project.
Right. I don't think I printed out the revised master plan. So, yeah, maybe when, Diane, if you can take a look at that, the revised master plan I sent you, that was the result of the workshop. And I believe that was one of the items on the revised master
Was.
plan.
Although we didn't act on anything at that
No,
session.
it's a draft. It's a workshop, it's a draft. So what I did was I consolidated all of the things that came up at the workshop into the draft for us to consider. So it's all a process.
Do we need a vote as a committee on adopting this project? Do we need to vote on that?
I'm not sure, it might be a good idea.
And that way we can make it go, put it into the master plan.
Want me to make a motion?
Sure.
I make a motion that we adopt the prospect of creating statuary for the Public Works Department in front of it.
That's the
with
public safety facility.
Public safety, I'm sorry, Public Works, I've been medicated. No, actually, I had a dye put through my brain yesterday, and it's still not all gone for the brain scan.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's my motion, that we adopt that, and in conjunction with the police and fire departments here in town, and anybody else that we can get to come up with a little.
I
I'd like
second.
to amend
I
that
second
motion
that.
if I don't know the,
Well,
but,
first we'll get a second.
I second it.
Okay, Trish, and then we have a discussion.
yeah, I would like to see us consider the master plan in entirety with this as one of the components. I think we really have not met the requirements of the ordinance in developing a master plan. And I would hold out for another work session, as I've outlined on this idea thing that Joan asked me to do. I think we really need to back up, survey the town with the aid of maps, maybe some tours, and really identify possibilities, including the public safety building. But I really think we need to take a more comprehensive view of our community.
Right. The question I had is kind of a chicken and an egg question again. Do we determine the site first, or do we solicit Art first?
The ordinance is very clear that we pick a site, pick sites, and then develop projects around them. My
Perfect.
point being, this is a site, and it will probably end up on the master plan, but we really haven't looked at the whole city. Neighborhoods, traffic corridors, individual sites, and I'd really like to see us dig into that.
Okay, so you want to amend the motion? Would you like to rephrase it?
I'd like to include this as part of our consideration of the bigger master plan as one of the possible sites.
Okay, do I hear a second? Okay, not hearing a second, we'll go back to the original motion.
I don't even remember what it was.
Marissa, could you read back the motion, please?
The vote to add the public safety building statue project as part of the master plan in conjunction with the fire and police departments of the city.
Okay, could you
And that-
amend statute to just a public art piece?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Because I don't want to
Thank
tie it
you.
into
Right,
anything
tie
that's
it, tie
specific.
it down.
and I did second that.
We're only adding it to the master plan, correct? That's-
Correct.
We have a
That's-
master plan.
Right.
Which I think goes in line with what you're,
I
Thought
want
was.
reconsideration
Of
of
the old
all
one.
of the possibilities instead of doing it piecemeal.
piecemeal.
Right, well, we're going to, earlier, I discussed sending out the revisions to the master plan we made at the workshop for our review. So that, the review of the master plan as it's been revised will come up at the February meeting. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Because basically, that's the way we've done the Artist Alley. We found the location, and we developed a purpose for that location, and then we're proceeding from there. Our hangup has been the insurance. That's- So we have done that in a
But
sense.
it seems as though there's a need for a more comprehensive
Right.
master plan that really digs into, you know,
You're talking more detailed. You want it very specific.
No, I think what I'm saying, and Bill may have another idea, I think we need to consider the master plan as a total plan, not just this project, that project, that project. I think we need to look at all the possibilities together.
Right.
And then develop a list of them and their priority to the
Okay.
Public Art Committee for presentation to the BOC. And I'm really just quoting what's
Right.
in the ordinance and in the guidelines.
Right, well, I think that's kind of what I did with the outcome of the workshop.
But we haven't seen that.
No. So, the thing is that I was remiss, I didn't get it to Diane and Marissa in the time frame needed to present it.
Well, also, you know, the workshop was just on Friday. This
Right.
is just Tuesday, so
Right.
there hasn't been a whole lot of time between the
So
two meetings.
it will be emailed out as a draft for everybody to take a look at, and
But
then
it-
we could proceed with that at the February meeting.
it does seem like we need to take a deeper dive into, you know, what projects are out there in the community, where, you know, where they may be located. Director of Public Works or Public Works may have projects that are coming up that we don't even know about that we can piggyback onto. It'd be nice to be inclusive of all that.
Right.
As we take a look at the whole budget and where you want to put your
Right.
dollars.
Diane, is it, speaking of comprehensive maps, nod to Lucienne, is there a way that we can get from Public Works or zoning any kind of map or compilation of any site that would be available for a public art project?
Well, no, I was wondering if we have GIS that's available.
Right, yeah.
We do, and if we can piggyback onto that, that would be powerful. You know,
Okay, I'll find out.
And that'll delineate the public or the city-owned properties. 'cause
Right.
That's the only place we can put these.
And I think it's important, you know, like in this discussion, especially like where we were talking about the illuminated art boxes, you know, it's like when you're doing a project, always have a specific location in mind, so we can get that approved ahead of time, and so that doesn't hold up the project.
Right, right.
Yeah, your registry would be completely done and updated all the time because you'd know where all your art is throughout the city.
Right,
So it's just it's the way
Right.
to go.
I'll work on that for the next meeting.
okay, thanks, Diane. Okay, and speaking of locations, we have, I don't know whether to call it a proposal or what to exactly put it, but Commissioner Carr has requested that we consider signage at the entrance of the sponge docks. And again, this is, you know, a major consideration. I know that, given the location and what's being considered, some of it would be on city property, some on private property. So I don't even know if this could be considered in our purview, or whether it's art or signage, or where we're going with this.
Picture, yeah, and we can only do we can't do signage and we can't do,
Any thoughts, Trish?
Well, going back, we didn't resolve Jules' motion. We never had a vote or resolved
Oh,
it.
sorry, thank you. Okay,
You're a good
Custom.
parliamentarian.
yes. Yes, yeah, we can have a discussion, yes. Yes, please.
Costa Vaticiotis. In just observing the discussion and the ideas that are going back and forth, I really believe it would be helpful, so there's no misunderstandings among anyone, whether it's residents, commissioners, or police and fire departments, for the Public Arts Committee to define their role with this memorial. And I don't know if you're intending on doing the entire thing from call to artist, paying for it, recommending paying for it. And I think there's going to have to be some say, perhaps, on what the fire and police departments would like to see.
Exactly, yeah.
So I think it could very easily it's a very complex, I think, project that you're undertaking. And I think some additional thoughts have to be spent in defining that role and what the guidelines are, so there's no misunderstanding on the part of Chief Cochin and Chief Youngs as far as what their departments are expected to provide.
Right,
Perhaps others that you mentioned and things of that nature. I'm just a little concerned that you're moving right along with this without that kind of those game rules being laid out
Right.
for everybody.
well, we had, there was discussion of, you know, a committee or an exploratory committee of sorts. Do you think that would satisfy the requirements you're discussing about getting guidelines?
No, I understand that, and I guess what you're saying is that's going to happen, but you're adding it to the master plan as if it's being another project for I mean, that's the sense I'm getting,
Right.
is that it's going to be another typical project for the Public Arts Committee, and I'm just thinking that the typical project would be something that is the call to artist for some, maybe not for others, but there'll be the selection process will be within here, and also the cost estimates and the payment will be out of the Public Art Committee
Right.
funds. I think this is somewhat different,
Right,
and as I said, a little more complicated. And if, you know, my thing is, if you want to proceed this way, fine, but I'm just saying, I just think that there's going to be some questions as far as what is the role of the Public Art Committee, who is expected to pay for this? Is it coming out of money that developers provide for artwork around the city? And is that something that the developers would have thought that their money was being spent for as far as memorials or other artwork commemorating or honoring the various public safety departments.
Right.
That's all. And at some point, I believe it's going to have to be approved by the city commission. I mean, whether you add it to the master plan or not,
Right.
it's being added as a proposed project, which shall also be considered. And I think these questions are going to be asked by them as well.
Right.
So,
So I think, I agree with you, Costa, and I think perhaps the way to go with this would be to defer it until we could,
I think it could-
get some more consensus about, in whose purview this actually lies, and,
I think
Yeah.
the committee's an excellent idea. That's all I'm getting at. Maybe
Right.
that committee could work out the details as I'm describing you. I'm
Right.
not adverse to anything that the Public Arts Committee wants to do. I think
Mm-hmm.
you do terrific work. I just don't want there to be any misunderstandings as far as what this project is and who's doing it. And
Right. Well,
that's all.
yeah.
Thank you.
No, I've always been a firm believer in putting things in writing, and kind of echoes what Lucienne was saying about, Chief, would you like to,
I mean, a lot of good points were made here, but I think you're taking the first step. And I think that's the most important thing, is looking at adding it to your master plan. Then you go to the BOC. Obviously, you're going to get feedback there. What are the commissioners thinking? What's the public thinking that's there? But Mr. Vaticiotis has some good points, but I think as we move ahead, all those points have to be addressed. But right now, you're kind of in the beginning. Go to the commission, get feedback from the commission. Obviously, you can have workshops, you can discuss this at your February meeting, but all those things do have to be addressed. How's it gonna work? What role you're gonna take? Are the police and fire departments gonna join in this committee? But those are things that once I think the commission kind of looks at you and says, we really like the project and keep us updated, then you could start talking about it as you move along. But yes, all those points have to be addressed.
okay?
How do we get from A to Z? That's gonna be important.
May I take back my motion?
Well, I was just going to ask you if we can get a retraction on the
Yeah.
motion.
Yes, excuse me, I retract the motion.
Can I get a second on the retraction?
Yeah, second.
Okay,
I think the chief's idea is a good one.
right,
Maybe that's what you should use. is
Form the
ask
committee.
city manager to agenda and at least get some feedback.
Yeah.
right.
All I'm saying is you're going to expending an awful lot of work, and maybe some of these questions can be answered for you.
Okay. All right. So I think we'll just, Diane, we'll just put it as deferred for the
Put it under
February.
old business.
Right. And that brings us back to the Sponge Docks entrance signage. Any thoughts?
Aren't we restricted from signage?
That's what I thought.
That's what I thought too.
I think by ordinance, we're not supposed to do signage.
There
Lucienne?
was a lot of discussion at a BOC meeting several months ago. A lot of the merchants from the Sponge Docks were there, and the one appropriate suggestion that I remember was doing something historic that was in the heavy cast iron, for example, that is out at Cycadia. You see it in Ybor City, for example. And I don't remember that it went anyplace, but it was discussed thoroughly.
Right.
We discussed it too, when it was first presented, as we should
Right.
do this.
Okay, I think what we're going to do, I think what I'm going to have decided to do, is listening to everybody, is perhaps re-examine the ordinance to see whether or not we can even address signage, and, get an opinion on that and bring it back to the February meeting, so that's another deferred. Okay. Also, I had a meeting with Chief and Diane about doing an update to the Board of Commissioners, which I believe is scheduled for the January 28th meeting. It's on the agenda? Okay. So I have prepared a PowerPoint. So Diane, would it be allowable to email that if it's to the other members? And perhaps
Sure.
we can review it at, at a time that's convenient to all of us. Okay. Okay. Is there any other new business? Anybody? Okay, Diane, you have city announcements?
No, most of it was covered, so.
Okay. Okay, and, well, I guess we have made some, through some deferments of some items on this agenda, so we have the agendas, additions to the agenda. And I have a request, the next meeting is scheduled for February 11th. Jules is undergoing surgery, and I'm going to be out of town, so I would like to ask the committee if we could reschedule to February 18th. Does anybody have any objections?
We just have to find out, make sure there's no other meetings going on.
Yeah,
Right.
let me see.
Right.
If you want, I could check real quick.
Would you, Chief? That would be great. Okay. Lucianne?
Okay, am I understanding we're going to consider the master plan next meeting, essentially have another work session based
It'll
on
be a meeting unless
the
you,
drafts?
yeah, unless, it'll be at an actual meeting.
And might we have maps available at that point?
I'm sure I can do that by, then, sure.
I will not be here on the 18th. February 18th. Yep.
Are there any alternate dates that you were thinking of?
Well, I just thought I'd bump it back a week. Is there anything that's, we're good for the 18th? Okay.
If I cannot be here, is that going to be counted as an absence? Because I have other commitment on that date.
Diane, I guess because it's a reschedule,
No,
I'll have to check with Irene.
okay. We'll see if we can get an excused absence because of the rescheduling. Okay.
so is that date okay with everybody?
Nobody else objected. I think Trish was the only one, and I think we
Okay.
can get her an excused absence
Yeah.
because it is a
It's a-
change to the,
Yeah,
okay.
I'll check with Irene.
I mean, I could try and be here, but I don't want to push it.
Yeah, and I definitely won't be here, so. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Can,
Oh, Bill,
real
sorry.
quick, yeah. Can we possibly have someone from GIS here to give us a little bit of an idea of what we might be able to do and how we might be able to integrate that into, what we're looking at with the maps and things?
We can have Suzanne come on the 18th meeting, talk about.
Talk a
they're
little
really
bit
going
about-
on
yeah.
GIS, Yeah.
Just to give everybody a flavor for what might be possible.
Yeah, it's pretty.
It's powerful.
Yeah, it is powerful.
It is.
Well, I'll make sure she's here.
Okay.
Or someone from our department to talk about it for
Perfect.
you guys.
Okay, anything else, anyone? Motion to adjourn? Anyone?
Second?
Sure.
You make the motion?
Bill move.
There we go.
Jules second. We are adjourned at, what does it looks like, 2:43.
And if you could bring your homework with you, the little homework thing, if you could bring.